Hello, my Bill 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? We are back with Coffeehouse Crime. I got the big coffee cup today. It's still hot. It's so hot. It's so cold it burns. It's so cold it burns. Oh, yeah. Alright. Like I was saying, we are back with another Coffeehouse Crime. This one is titled The Osaka Kidnapper, the case of Koji Yamada. Yamada. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm horrible with names. I am. So if I ever say any name, and please don't get offended by it, because I suck at names. I'm good with faces though. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this story. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cuddle up with someone special. Let's get sad for all the wrong reasons, more than likely, because that's just how Coffeehouse Crimes goes. Alright, let's get into it.
Motorbike gangs and Fukushima's nuclear disaster. Koji Yamada was a man who liked to live on the dark side of life, and even from a young age, he would make the wrong decisions. In his adulthood, these choices would tragically lead to murder. But what steps were made down?
Hey, a creepy looking little fucker though, ain't he? He doesn't look right. It look like, I don't know.
Down his terrible path,
Yeah, right.
and who were the victims to his morbid crimes. Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime. My name is Adrian, and in today's video we're looking at the twisted case of Koji Yamada. A man who used Japan's safe reputation to his advantage, Koji targeted the innocent and naive to fulfill his needs, which resulted in the loss of multiple lives. Just to let you know, I post solved, unsolved and strange cases here on a weekly basis, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime. And please stick around to the end of this case for a short update. So, let's dive straight into today's case. Pull up a seat, grab a coffee and sit back. This is the case of Koji Yamada.
Got my coffee. Hope you guys got yours too.
Good morning. Our case today brings us back to Japan. Statistically speaking, Japan is one of the safest countries in the world. One of the many reasons why over 30 million tourists visit every year. Pandemic aside, of course. Alongside a vibrant and rich culture, Japan boasts the best of all four seasons. From the southern holiday resorts of Okinawa to the northern ski slopes of Hokkaido, there is something for everyone. And our case today takes us to one of the most frequently visited urban playgrounds in the country, the neon-lit city of Osaka. Famous for its easygoing atmosphere, exciting nightlife, and delicious street food, you'll find yourself wandering the streets in awe and chowing down on its world-famous takoyaki. It's here, in the connecting city of Hirakata, that we find 45-year-old Koji Yamada.
I'm telling you, he would make an amazing travel agent. No lie, I want to go there just for some food now.
Koji was born on the 4th of April 1970 and lived within Hirakata City within Osaka Prefecture. Growing up, Koji had a lonely upbringing. His father was a baker and his mother worked part-time in the hospitality industry. Due to his parents' long working hours, Koji wouldn't get the opportunity to spend much time with them.
What kind of hospitality? Like hospitality like waitress, or like one of those people at the hotels that give you shit, or like hospitality? Yokichiwa hospitality. I'm just asking. I need to know. You need to know these things, alright? I have one of those, I have a curious mind.
And his mother was observed to have been cold, scolding, and neglectful towards the young boy.
It was probably the latter then.
This resulted in Koji often wandering his neighbourhood looking for any form of entertainment. But no other children would play with him, and the adults around him grew wary of his loitering, avoiding him at all opportunities. Koji's living situation was...
Yeah, I'm getting sad for all the wrong reasons. You mofo. Oh, that's sad. It's not that poor kid's fault. His family didn't want him. Or they did want him, but they wanted him for all the wrong reasons. It's sad.
It's also a point of contention with local neighbours. With Japan being a famously clean country, a lot of its population sees mess and untidiness as offensive. And regrettably, Koji's family home was known by local neighbours as Trash Mansion, with rubbish and debris scattered throughout the property's border. One neighbour even went as far to complain to the family about a strange odour coming from the property, and upon further inspection, they found that it was the family's cat which had sadly died on the premises. And rather disgustingly, but despite already knowing about this, they refused to clean it up. This rough and neglectful upbringing left Koji extremely lonely, and he acted out in any outrageous way possible in order to gain attention from his parents and those around him. Throughout junior high, he was disliked and a well-known bully, and he'd often choose to pick on those who were weaker than him. And this, coupled with his failing grades, made him an extremely unpopular kid at school. In addition, Koji frequently committed theft and petty crimes in his local area. And this behaviour became so frequent that he was admitted to a juvenile detention facility as a preteen. Koji was in and out of here for most of his young teenage life, and when it came to graduating junior high, Koji refused to enroll into high school.
See what I mean? He makes me feel bad for the person I'm not supposed to feel bad for. But I mean, that really does just go to show maybe if, someone would have, gave a shit about him, maybe he wouldn't have done whatever he did. And that's sad because it's always a question, is it genetics that makes it? Is it the upbringing? Is nature or nurture, right? This time, maybe a little bit of both. The parents don't sound that amazing, so. But if someone maybe cared about him a little bit more, maybe, like I said, maybe he wouldn't have done the things he did. I don't know what he did, but I have a feeling it's pretty fucked up.
Instead, he took to the streets of Osaka, joining a local motorbike gang in order to pursue money through criminal activity. It was during this period that Koji found other people that he could relate to. This meant he began to explore himself, and it was within this period of time that Koji would experiment with his sexuality.
Splinter off of Ninja Turtles, that's what the hell he looks like. Like the original Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Ultimately settling on a bisexual identity. And during this time, he was still living at home with his parents, but he came and went as he pleased, often being away for days, even weeks at a time. Unfortunately, Koji's behaviour became increasingly delinquent as time passed, and although his parents had a history of being neglectful, they didn't agree with Koji's chosen lifestyle. And after dealing with his bad behaviour for almost 2 decades, in 2001 they kicked him out of the family house.
And they didn't approve of his lifestyle where he was bisexual, or they didn't approve of his lifestyle for being a shit? I mean, which one? Because one of them, I mean, let him do what he do. The other one, I understand. Now, you shouldn't be a shit. But I don't know what Japan's takes on bisexuality and homosexuality and stuff like that are either, so. And if they're that strict about your yard being dirty, I imagine they're strict on how they think you should be in life. That's so messed up. I mean, oh Lord, the boy's just trying to find someone to love and who loves him the way his parents never did. Who cares? Jeez.
Household. Koji aged 30 at this time. This expulsion from home prompted Koji to get an apartment of his own. He gained income through unlawful means, and since most rental housing in Japan is notoriously well regulated, he didn't have much of a choice when it came to housing. However, Koji managed to find a private landlord in Nayagawa City, an area which took him closer to the heart of Osaka.
I'm not trying to say I understand where he's coming from when it comes to the nefarious means, but I mean, the boy didn't make it through school. He didn't even finish high school. I think I'm pretty sure he said that after junior high, he just stopped. There's not a whole lot of job opportunities for people who drop out of school. There's just not. And it's Japan. I imagine you if they look down on you for being just like nasty, I'm sure they look down on you for not being what they would classify as smart because you didn't finish school. Man, that's like I feel so bad for him, and I know it's gonna come back and bite me in the ass. It really is. Shit.
The year is now 2002, and Koji, 31 years old. Living by himself, he did whatever he pleased, law-abiding or otherwise. It's at this stage in his life that Koji realised he could get away with almost anything, and once again he was short on money.
Oh shit.
And so he returned to his previous lifestyle, targeting those weaker than him and those he could overpower, and more specifically, high school students around Nayagawa. In March of 2002, Koji jumped into his car and prowled Osaka streets for his first victims, and it's here that he came across 3 junior high school boys. In order to gain their trust, he pretended to be a police officer, and eventually they were convinced into his car. But once inside, he brandished a knife towards the boys. Handcuffing one in the front seat, he threatened the other 2 with the knife, demanding they give him their phones and money. Eventually, Koji released those in the back of his car, but he held on to the other kid, who was still bound in the front seat. Fortunately, this young man was also released without harm in Moriguchi, a city neighbouring Nayagawa. You'd think that, after such a crime, Koji would lay low for a while. But no, he needed the money, and just 7 days later, he was back on the streets once again looking for new victims. Approaching the 2 young men, Koji asked them for help with directions, but for them to be able to see the map properly, he convinced them into the back of his car. And once inside, Koji pulled his knife out before telling the boys to take their shirts off. After that, he blindfolded them and tied their legs together. Koji drove around with the partially clothed men for several hours, before taking their belongings and eventually dropping them in the streets of Setsu City, not far from where they were picked up. It was clear that these attacks...
What was the point of making them get half undressed and driving them around? I don't. Oh god, I don't understand that part. Like, I get the blindfold, but why everything else? That's weird.
were gaining more motive than money. And who knew how far this new perversion would take him?
Of driving people around
Over the
half-naked.
following weeks, he committed similar crimes twice.
So is he just like literally the worst taxi driver ever? Picks you up, makes you get half undressed, ties you up, takes your money, then drops you back off where he picks you up at?
More. The first occasion involving 2 young boys who tried to help him with directions, and the second occasion involving one boy who had trusted Koji with a lift. And in both instances, they were asked to undress and commit obscene acts.
Oh damn! Now he's making them do. Oh.
In the space of 1 mere month, Koji had now kidnapped, robbed, and assaulted 8 high school students. However, with his most recent victim, he had made a mistake. Amongst the boys' stolen belongings was a membership card from a video rental store. And, rather stupidly, Koji used this to rent a movie not long after the crime. This gave police a vital lead over the recent kidnappings, and after speaking to the store's staff, they connected Koji as the main suspect. All of Koji's victims confirmed his identity, and on the 3rd of April 2002,
Okay. Dumb question. First off, what was the movie he rented? I need to know. Second, why in the hell would you be dumb enough to take a video rental card to the video store and rent a freaking video? That's dumb. One, there's cameras everywhere. There. Not the brightest person in the world. He should have finished high school.
Koji was finally arrested for his actions. He was then sentenced to 12 years in prison, following 8 counts of kidnapping, with further counts of robbery, forced obscenity,
8 counts of kidnapping, robbery, doing dirty, dirty things, obscenely, and you only gonna get 12 years? Let me kidnap one person one time. I'm probably gonna get like 20 to life.
and possession of an offensive weapon. Spending the next decade behind bars gave Koji plenty of time to think back upon his reckless behaviour. And only if he had, because then this video would be much shorter.
He made it funny. I like it. He's hilarious sometimes.
But sadly, our story continues, and after being released from prison 11
Yeah, 12 years of sitting there and thinking about what he messed up on and how to do it better. Guaranteed. Not better for the other people, but better for himself. But there's 10 minutes left. It's going to go sideways. Fingers crossed it goes sideways.
years later, the crimes of Koji Yamada only worsened. Finding freedom in October of 2014, Koji struggled to find work after prison. Though it wouldn't be impossible.
Yeah, you dropped out of school. You kidnapped kids, assaulted them, did weird things, made them get undressed, had weapons. You served 12 years in prison for. I don't know how you only served 12 years in prison for. Oh, and there was also robbery. And now you're out, and you think it's going to be easy to get a job. Dude, it wasn't easy to get a job before you went in. Hence you robbing people. You think it's going to be easy? He's a dum-dum.
As unlike many modern countries, Japan doesn't have a registry for sex offenders. So after leaving Tokushima prison and
There's no red dot that follows him around? Oh, fuck, that's bull. I'm sorry. Like, he should have, like, they need a registry. But there's no reason. What, my question is, why don't they? Is it because of like overpopulation or too many people with the same name, or it's just so many people it's hard to keep track of? Like, I really need to know. Like that's stupid to not have some sort of like registry or at least a computer generated dot that follows you around. I mean, Japan, they are intelligent people. You figured they would have like this thing that, literally follows him around, a big old red dot right above his head. Just, yep, we know what you did.
perhaps one of the most interesting points of his life, Koji opted to work as a decontamination specialist in Fukushima, which of course, in 2011, was the city to be hit by an earthquake-induced nuclear disaster. Occurring on March the 11th, 2011, the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami is considered to be one of Japan's most catastrophic disasters to date. With almost 20,000 deaths and more than 2
Yes, I've seen this stuff in history classes and stuff. It still just dumbfounds. No, we're not. It gobsmacks me. That is my new favorite word. It gobsmacks me. Every time I see the images of this, like, that is just craziness.
2,000 people still missing, the event inflicted $360 billion worth of damage.
I mean, look, it's on fire, and just pulling houses with it, and water, mud, houses, debris, fire, like all in one. Like, that's some like end of day shit in my book. I'm sorry. How'd you die? Like, earth, wind, fire, all at one time. What about water? Oh, it was there too. It helped. Not me, though.
And in the process, Fukushima's Daiichi nuclear power plant was part of that. This is actually a case that I'd like to cover one day, but a 12-mile exclusion zone was mandated after one of the plant's nuclear...
I would watch it. I don't know if I don't go through videos. I usually just go through and go to the video button, and then I go down on my mouse like this a couple times with my eyes closed, and I point at the screen, And whatever video my finger lands on is the video I do. There's a lot of science that goes into how I pick my videos. It works. Don't judge me. So I would like to know if you actually did do a video. I love historical videos as well. I do.
The reactors began to emit radiation. Moving forward, the disaster still leaves many abandoned towns and villages in the area, but work is underway to remove radioactive deposits. This work involves removing the top layer of radioactive soil and relocating them to a safer area. And although this is messy, labouring work, Koji took it. Colleagues described him as someone who worked diligently, but in silence. But he would somehow manage to find a girlfriend while working in the area, and the two began seeing each other. The job didn't come with many holidays, but Koji took time off through the Bon Festival, a public holiday which honours our ancestors. This meant that in August of 2015, Koji would travel back.
They have a lot of festivals for a lot of things, and they're all beautiful. They are. Like, they celebrate everything. God, you gotta love that. Like, I know we have our holidays and stuff, but they go all out, bro. Like, shut down streets and all kinds of craziness. Like, they are very... the word's on the tip of my tongue. They're that word I'm thinking of that I can't think of right now.
Back to Osaka by car, stopping in Tokyo on the way back. And coincidentally, while on his way back, Koji was stopped in his car for a routine check by police. In the trunk, officers found a pair of handcuffs and a stun gun. Koji insisted that these were only for self-defense, just in case he broke down in a dark or risky area.
A stun gun and handcuffs? I'd be like, look, the old lady's into some freaky shit, bro. You know, yeah. I wouldn't have said that, though. I would have been like, hey, you know, don't judge me. I'll just going to the old lady's house. We about ready to get some wham bam thank you, man. That's just how we get down.
And considering the stun gun hadn't been used before, the officers decided to let Koji off, but only if he surrendered these two items. It's kind of strange to me that officers can stop a convicted kidnapper, notice handcuffs and a taser in the boot of his car, and not make any connections, even let him go.
Well, if he doesn't have a little red dot that follows him around, but I doubt they're really going to give two shits if he was convicted of it before. I mean, am I wrong? They're not going to be like, well, let's look into you. Well, you did some pretty messed up stuff, but we don't deem it necessary for you to be on any registry or anything like that because, you know, that's just how we feel about it. They're not going to, I don't think they're really going to care. And honestly, I would understand the stun gun. And honestly, I would understand the handcuffs to an extent. After you stun them, you're going to want to lock them up. That way they can't, you know, come back to you and try to do something to you. If you're broke down the side of the road, you're broke down. You ain't going to be able to get the fuck away. So I do get it to an extent. I understand. Devil's advocate. That's all. That's all. I'm just being a little devil's advocate. But I would have been like, the old lady gets down with some freaky shit, but like, no lie. I'm on the way to see her. We about to get a little bit of wham bam thank you ma'am, and you know, that's just how we roll. She wanted me to pick up a whip on the way and some ice cubes and a water buffalo too. You just pulled me over before I had a chance to hit the store.
Nevertheless, with this routine stop now out of the way, Koji was on his way back to his hometown in Osaka. Being released from prison only 1 year prior, he remained dormant in his criminal activity while working in Fukushima. He was only going home for a few days, and gone after the holiday. Had Koji Yamada learned from his stay in prison? Or would he use his short stay in Osaka to revert back to his criminal ways? It seems as if 11 years in prison had done no good to Koji's morals, as unfortunately, he had plans. A plan that would lead to much more tragic consequences when compared to his previous crimes. August the 12th, 2015. It was a warm summer's evening in Japan, and junior high schooler Ryoto Hoshino was both restless and bored. It wasn't uncommon for the 12-year-old to be out after dark, so around 9 PM, he asked his mother if he could go out to see his friend, 13-year-old Natsumi Hirata. The two met up at a local convenience store where they grabbed some snacks and soda for the night ahead. Although in general Japan is safer than most Western countries, the need to protect your children is still very important, and whether their families knew or not, but Ryoto and Natsumi had plans to stay out all night. At around 1 AM, a surveillance camera spotted the two young children loitering around a mall near Nayagawa Station. They spent most of the early hours of the morning here, and at 5 AM they were seen a second time by the same camera. But this would be the last time that the two young kids were spotted by CCTV. At approximately 5:20 that morning, a white EK wagon pulled up beside the two young students, and inside was Koji Yamada. He beckoned the two students over, and although we don't know what was said, he convinced them to get into his car. And from here, history would repeat itself. He threatened them with a knife, bound them, and gagged them. Though this time, Koji would not stop here, as just 7 hours later, he was spotted in a convenience store purchasing adhesive tape. It's here that the timeline goes blank. We don't know what happened to Ryoto or Natsumi. But their status would not go unnoticed, as back at Natsumi's home, the family woke up to a missing daughter. The police were called immediately, and due to her disappearance being late at night, they deemed it to be of utmost importance to find the young girl as soon as possible. A citywide message was sent out among police officers, and the search swiftly ensued. It turns out that Natsumi had messaged her friends the previous evening, showing that she and Ryoto were planning to run away to Kyoto, and with that said, the police started their search efforts at the station. As the hours raced by, daylight faded into a warm summer night, when suddenly, at 11:30 on the 13th of August, they received some harrowing news. A report had come in from a local logistics company, claiming that they'd found a body in their parking lot, and tragically, the body was identified to be Natsumi Hirata. It was concluded that she'd died from suffocation. The disappearance of Natsumi Hirata had quickly turned from a missing persons case to homicide, and police were ruthlessly trying to find out who the culprit was. And with the discovery of Natsumi's body,
Piece of shit. But like you said, if that was the end of it, his story would be a lot shorter. I knew it was going to go south really freaking fast. I hope he stays in prison more than 12 years this time.
Ryoto's family were now in extreme panic, knowing that the two had spent the previous night together. Working with authorities, both families strengthened their efforts to help find Ryoto and Natsumi's monster. But who would they find first? And could they even be sure if Ryoto was still alive? As it turns out, Koji's holiday had come to an end, and as planned, he was already on his way back to Fukushima Prefecture. While on the way back, he went for curry in Makahari, found in Chiba Prefecture, and posted to Facebook saying it was delicious. And surveillance cameras spotted him multiple times here, carrying on with his life as if nothing had happened. But Koji's time as a free man was rapidly dwindling by the hour, as police had identified his car through surveillance footage located around Nayagawa Station. And they'd even linked his car to surveillance footage found at the parking lot. In this screenshot here, you can see the headlights of a car matching that of an EK wagon, and this car was parked up just 1 hour before Natsumi was found.
Those wagons are, bro. I couldn't freaking tell you.
Although Koji was now back at work in Fukushima, he couldn't relax, and only 1 week later, he found himself returning to Osaka. But this would be a grave mistake, as officers were relentlessly in search for his car. This was a very stupid move, as arguably, they wouldn't be searching for him in an exclusion zone over 500 miles away. But this story isn't about an intelligent killer, and so after returning to Osaka, Koji's car was spotted and tailed by police. With the police hot on his tail, Koji drove them to a small bamboo grove next to a train line in Kashiwara, Osaka, before stopping his vehicle and exiting with his hands held high. He was detained by police, and the surrounding area searched. And here, in a small area of upturned earth, the hope and faith of Ryoto's family had died. Tragically, police had found the remains of young Ryoto Hoshino, and the cause of his death was also suffocation. Needless to say, Koji was arrested immediately on suspicion of murdering these two students, and as the situation unfolded around him,
Did he kill them at the same time and just took the boy's body and did weird stuff with it. Like, oh my god. Or was the poor boy still alive up until he went back and he killed him then? That. Either way, that poor child suffered. They both did, and it's mm, needs to be shot in his face. I'm sorry, he does. Agree, disagree. It don't matter to me. Like I say all the time, that's just my opinion. Our opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. They all think theirs smells better than the next, but they all smell bad. Except for mine. It smells like roses.
He seemed to show very little remorse. Throughout both questioning and interrogation, Koji insisted that he was innocent. Apparently, he was just the driver to this gruesome double homicide. He claims that
Just a driver. The bullshit. I don't care if you just driver. You guilty. You guilty.
apparently there was a second man who overpowered and killed both students, and he then ordered Koji to remove their bodies, or else. But obviously, no second motive was ever found, and Koji has never disclosed his motives, his reasoning, or his actions. With his incredibly weak defense, in combination with circumstantial and DNA evidence, Koji was swiftly found guilty of the murders of Ryoto Ishino and Natsumi Hirata. And being in Japan with a crime as despicable as his, along with a dark and twisted criminal history, Koji found himself the death penalty. He would appeal this on multiple occasions over the next few years, but he was unsuccessful every time.
Good.
Koji now lives the rest of his life behind bars, until the day comes where his death penalty is finally executed.
How do they do the death penalty over there? Yeah, I mean, it's the same over here. Like, you get the lethal injection, or like, I'm just wondering. I don't know. I don't live there, and I don't know what their levels of inhumane are. Are, whatever. Whichever one sounds better. I don't know what their levels of inhumanity could be compared to ours. Like, I know, like back in the day, you was like shot, electrocuted. Now you get that lethal injection where you just fall asleep and go night night. No. Yeah. So.
No pun intended. Koji Yamada is a sick and twisted man, who has forever scarred the lives and minds of numerous young people and their families. From the boys he mistreated and robbed, all the way through to the deaths of 2 innocent young teens. Both of which have been taken far earlier than expected, leaving behind grieving families and friends. One of the most frustrating aspects about this case is wrong place, wrong time. At a time like 5 AM, both Natsumi and Ryoto should have been in their beds, safe and sound. Granted, friends did report that the two were planning.
The parents shouldn't let them out that late. I mean, they looked relatively young. The parent should have been like, no. I'm sorry. No. No. My kids know when the light goes on, you're to be in this house. Period. You're not in this house with them. About 10 minutes of that light kicking on, I will find you. And I will have to limp back because my foot's going to be stuck up your ass. That's just how it is. That's how I was raised. I turned out fine. That's how it was whenever I was little. When the street light kicked on, I had 10 minutes to have my little white butt in that house, or it was going to be black and blue by the time my mama was done with it. You didn't want that because she'd make sure you couldn't sit for a week. And she wasn't lying when she would say that. No. But it is what it is. Like I said, yes, my parents were strict. But I had more freedoms than most. once I hit a certain age, my parents knew I was pretty much okay. They all pretty well knew every single one of my friends that I hung out with and their parents. So it, instead of just being me out with friends that they didn't know about, it was kind of like, my own little community. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child, and these people was my village. So but if that light was on, I better have my butt in the house, or is it going to get beat? Mm-hmm. But that was supper time, and Dad didn't like to wait for supper. You make him wait and supper's cold, he'll beat you twice just for it being cold.
To run away together to Kyoto. So maybe they snuck out of their house. But even still, it's a parent's obligation to look after their children. And chances are, most times in this situation, no misfortune would ever come their way. But tragically, on this night, the odds were not in their favour. And so, another disturbing.
Mm-hmm. What ifs? What ifs and could have beens. The world's full of them. I mean, as a parent, it is your responsibility. It is, especially when they're that young. But also, as a parent, you can only do so much, people. You can try. Kids are shifty anymore. Like it's a full-time job trying to keep up with them. Plus, most parents have to work full-time jobs. You can't. It's difficult. It is. All thing you can do is hope and pray to God you ain't messed them up more than they need to be, and that you've done everything you can. Like as a father, I worry every day. I do, and there's not much anyone can do about that. There's not much I can do about it or anyone, but only thing we can do is sit back and hope that we raise them right and that they turn out halfway decent. I tell my kids all the time, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. Compared to you guys, I want to look like shit. You know what I mean? I want you all to be awesome, amazing. I want you to be people I look up to.
Case from Japan. A safe country, but all the true crime that comes from here always seems so messed up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. If you found this video interesting...
Well, it sounds like it's safe because they don't like to publicize their shittiness when it comes to crimes. I mean, we hear about our crimes all the time, but I mean, you get on those pedophile websites to see if there's any pedos in your area. You see more than 2 red dots in your neighborhood, you don't want to move there. Or you want to move out. Sounds to me like they like to keep theirs swept under the rug. And I don't think that's better. Yeah, people might think it's safer, but I mean, is it really? Alright. Well, that's it for Coffeehouse Crime. Hold on. And that's it for the coffee. That's the first time I've ever actually been able to finish a whole cup of coffee in this big old coffee cup without it getting cold first. He's my lucky charm when it comes to this cup. Alright. That's... And another question. Completely. They said that he was moving radioactive soil from one place to the other. Like, was he wearing a suit that kept him safe in the radiation, or did the radiation maybe, him a little bit, like fried his eggs? Fried those eggs? I have a lot of questions now. And I ain't going to get no answers to them. Yay. Alright. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed today's video, please leave a thumbs up. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, deranged, or things that just make you second guess all of your life, because, that happens, think about subscribing. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. I mean, it, you figured, but what if there was? Maybe he used that to lure the kids. Maybe his junk glue was glowing from all the radiation from the ground, the dirt and stuff that he was moving. And he's like, "Look what I can do! I'm an alien." And he was like, "I'm sorry."